Hey everyone, and welcome to AMC Mail Bag, the all mailbag show here on AMC Movie News, where all we do is take your questions. I'm Ashley Mova, and if you've got a question that you want answered on air, you can send it over anytime to amcmovietalk@gmail.com. You could get it answered on Movie Talk or Mailbag, and sitting with me to answer some of those questions right now is the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News, John Campea. John, how are you today?
It hasn't passed yet. Every Sunday, I'm still like wondering where the hell is my football. You'd think by this point I'd be over it, but it's just getting worse.
Okay. First question comes from Nathan, and he writes, "Hi everyone at AMC. I'm a huge fan of the Percy Jackson book series, and I thought the 2 film adaptations were good, but felt that the films would have been done better if they had stuck with Percy being 12 when the series starts. I feel like when they made him a teenager in the films, it made it harder for them to make all 5 books into films because the actors will look too old to be playing these younger characters. So my question is, should they reboot the franchise and this time make Percy 12 like he is in the first book? That way, if it goes the Harry Potter route, they make all 5 books into movies. The actor can grow up along with the movies."
Here's where I actually like the first Percy Jackson film, and I didn't mind the second one either, but I actually kind of like the first one, and it introduced us to Logan Lerman, and to be honest with you, I thought Logan was the reason the first one worked so well. I really do. But let's be really clear here. The reason they did not make all 5 Percy Jackson films was not because Logan was a certain age. They didn't make all 5 because they realized it wasn't really working. We talk sometimes about trajectory. When you're talking about franchises and sequels and determining whether they're going to make a 3rd or a 4th or a 5th, what producers and studios like to sit back and look at is the trajectory. Is the trajectory doing this, in which the first one made this much money and the second one made this much money and the critic ratings went up and the fan ratings went up and blah, blah. They want to see this trajectory. What they don't want to see is this trajectory. That the first one made this much money and the second one made this much. And the critic ratings for the first one were here and they were down here for this one. Fan response was up here and ended up down here. And with Percy Jackson, the difference between the first film and the second film was definitely a downward trajectory. And they made almost like $25 million less than the first one did. The people didn't like it nearly as much and all that kind of stuff. It just showed that it wasn't a franchise that could survive on the brand name of the franchise alone. Unlike a Harry Potter, like as popular as the Percy Jackson books are, they were not in the same league as the Harry Potter books. Everybody understands that, and everybody knows that and agrees with that. So whereas a Harry Potter could have just stood on the popularity of the franchise, Percy Jackson could not. It's got to really go outside of its book core fan base. And unfortunately, the trajectory was this. The people's reactions to it were this. Had nothing to do with Logan's age. Trust me, if the first one made like $225 million and the second one made like $260 million and the critics loved and stuff like that, they would have made 3 more Percy Jackson films with Logan like that. No problem with a teenage Percy Jackson. They would have done it and it would have worked and it would have been great. Unfortunately, that's not the way it worked out. So that is why we did not get another 3 Percy Jackson movies.
I know how you feel about video games being made into movies.
Right.
Do you feel the same way about books being made into movies?
No. Like part of my problem is like, look, my thing is this. All video game movies suck. They all have. There hasn't been one that's been good. There's been a couple that have been awful, but I love them for guilty pleasure stuff. Mortal Kombat? Are you kidding me? Get over here. I can watch that. I've watched that movie so many times. I love it. It doesn't stop the fact that I acknowledge that it's terrible, but I love it. And you know what? I've always said too, the first Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie was not awful. That's the best I'll say. The first Tomb Raider, but besides that, they've all sucked. I really hope we see a changing of the tide coming with both, especially Warcraft and Assassin's Creed. I think, and you know what? I actually like the trailer to the first trailer to the new Hitman movie coming too. So, fingers crossed there. So, but my big criticism about these video game movies has always been, you can tell, video games are created not for storytelling, nor should they be. They're created for gameplay and immersive gameplay. That's what they're made for, and that's what they should be made for. And then you get some guys who come along, these studios come along and says, just take it and make it into a movie, whatever, and it hasn't worked yet. Books are different. Books are made extensively for narrative. They are made for storytelling. You don't play a book. You consume a book. You read the book. And that presents a different set of challenges to an adapting a book to a feature film, but it's not as startling of an adaptation as it is trying to convert a video game to a book. But once again, I think we are coming into a year where we're going to have Warcraft. We're coming up to a year where we're going to have Assassin's Creed. I'm holding out hope that both of these are going to be groundbreaking, and they're both going to be great. And if that happens, we are going to be ushered into a whole new era of video game adaptation movies. You watch. If one of these films knocks it out of the park, you're going to see 20 new video game movies lined up by all the studios instantaneously. So we could be on the verge of a golden age of video game
I hope so.
adaptations. Fingers crossed.
Josh Brown writes, I was really wondering if you think there is a chance the next TMNT will get rid of Johnny Knoxville and allow the actor who did the mocap to do the voice, just like all the other turtle actors did. Knoxville's voice really took me out of the film, and I think the original performer deserves to deliver the lines. Thanks, and keep up the great work.
Thanks a lot for the question. You know, we've talked about it recently. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is one of those films that I trash talked for about 6 months, maybe longer than 6 months, because I thought that movie was going to be horrible. I still stand by the fact that it looked horrible and sounded horrible, but that's why you start with how you prediction if it's going to be good or bad, but then you leave your prediction at the door and then just go in and watch the movie on its own merits. And I like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Completely surprised me. I actually like that movie, and I'm going to completely disagree with you, actually. I thought the same way you did before I saw the movie. Johnny Knoxville is one of the voices of the Turtles. Doesn't fit for me. And Tony, I never know how to pronounce Tony's last name. Shalob? Or does anybody in the room know how to pronounce Tony's last name?
I think it's Shalob.
You think it is Shalob? Yeah, okay, so we'll go with Tony Shalob. When they announced that he was going to do the voice of Splinter, I thought that's kind of a weird choice too. But honestly, for me personally, and it's cool if they didn't work for you, for me, those both worked. They both worked quite well, as a matter of fact. So I'm not of the opinion that Knoxville took us out. And so, no, I don't think there's any chance they're going to take him out and replace him with somebody else's voice. It's easy work for them to do. The notion, though, in the question of the actor who did the mocap deserved to have his voice. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Actors, let's get this straight, okay? Let's be very, very clear about this. Actors deserve nothing. What actors deserve is a paycheck. They deserve a paycheck. This ain't their movie. All right, let's be real clear about that. Unless you're Tom Cruise and you're footing the bill for this movie and you're the producer and getting it all together, this ain't your movie, right? If I am in charge of a project, a creative project even, let's say building this set, I am in charge of it, right? And I hire somebody to come in to mount this TV on the wall, to mount our giant monitor here on the wall. Does that person then deserve to paint our upper, you can't see it from this shot, but we got red upper pylons up here, right? Does that person deserve, would they deserve to get the paint job on that because they hung the TV for you? No. They hung the TV for me and I paid them to do that. This is my set. This is my project. The person who came in here and hung the monitor deserves nothing from me other than the paycheck to do it. That is what they're owed, and that's what they deserve to get. So just because this actor came in and did the motion capture in the suit to suggest that he is somehow owed something, that this movie is actually part mine. Now it's my movie. No, it's not. As long as I'm signing the checks, it's still my movie, and I will do for my movie what I think is best for the movie. And if I don't think you doing the voice of Raphael is best for the movie, then you're not doing the voice of Raphael, and you don't deserve to do the voice of Raphael. I mean, it's just that simple. I think a lot of people romanticize the idea of actors sometimes because actors are the ones we know. We know the actors because we see them, but we don't see all the people. We don't see the producers doing their thing. We don't see the writers doing their thing. We don't see the director doing their thing. And we forget this is their movie. It's not the directors. Now, it's not the performers. What I also found really funny, though, in this whole conversation is that I actually think right now we are living in an era where actors are treated with such disrespect. The art of acting, it drives me nuts. It really does. When I hear people say, I'm not going to use that example again because, Gal Gadot, right? Gal Gadot. Or whatever. Say, hey, just give this famous person a part in the role. They can learn. They could go and study for 6 months and they can learn. Like, seriously, we are living in an era right now where there's such rampant disrespect for the art of acting. It's crazy. Like everybody, anybody can act. No, you know what? No, not anybody can act. I mean, anybody can become an actor, but we got people who've dedicated their lives to acting and trained for 10, 15, 20 years, perfecting the art of acting, and they're actors. To suggest, this person who was a race car driver last month, yeah, put him in. Well, he could be really good because we like him. It's like, to me, it's so disrespectful to the art of acting. Now, I'm saying that at the same time that I'm saying that the actors owed nothing. Respect the art, but also keep the art in its place and understand who's got what role. So anyway, that's a long-winded answer to.
And I'm sure that actor doing the mocap was pretty happy doing that in general.
I mean, this was a guy. The guy who did the mocap for Raphael was a guy by the name of Pete Sloskin or something like that. But anyway, Pete has a couple of little credits on his IMDb. I think he was in like one episode of Plozek or something like that. He was in one episode of one TV show and one episode of another. And then he got a mocap job being Raphael.
That's crazy.
And I bet he got paid better doing that job than he did for any of the other one-shot TV appearances he did. So don't feel too badly for him. It wasn't his role. It's the producer's role. And he gives it to whoever he thinks will make the film a better film. And that's the way it should be.
And I think Johnny Knoxville has a really distinctive voice. He looks like he sounds like a turtle to me. I think he's a really distinctive voice. Do you think that some actors have like such distinctive voices that sometimes it hurts their chances of landing a certain role? Because when you think of that voice, you just picture that actor's face.
It's the same as anything, right? Everything is a strength and a weakness. Let's say I was an actor, right? And there's a role out there for an early 40s white dude, Italian Canadian, who happens to be a movie pundit. And there's a role for that in this movie and no acting experience required. In that case, me being the white, pasty, Caucasian, Italian Canadian movie pundit that I am, that is a strength. That is my strength. But it can also be a weakness because, hey, they're casting for Denzel Washington's son. I want to go out for that. Oh, guess what? My white, pasty, Canadian, Italian heritage is now working against me. It is now a weakness. And I think the true is same of many actors, that they can have things that are really like James Earl Jones, right? Think of his voice, that iconic, incredible voice, which makes him incredible. Hey, we need a voice of the King of the Lions. Who are we going to get? James Earl effing Jones. With that voice, it is his strength. Okay, now we need this other thing of this little nerdy next door neighbor. No, James Earl Jones, you can't disassociate power from James Earl Jones, and now that becomes a weakness. So yes, I do think guys with such distinctive voices or distinctive features or distinctive talents or are known for certain things, it's a great strength depending on the circumstance, but then it can become a weakness to you in another.
Makes sense. Mohamam123, and they write, "Hello, AMC. I just watched the new trailer for Mad Max Fury Road, and I am speechless. My question is, do I have to see the previous 3 movies before this? Thanks." No,
you don't. Now, I have not seen the movie, but I have been assured you do not. It would be a monumentally stupid thing for Warner Brothers to go, hey, you know what? We're going to have a potentially big blockbuster hit here. Let's limit the potential audience for this movie to only those who saw all the original 3 movies. That would be insane for them to do. And I've spoke to John Schnepp, who has seen the film, and he assures me, even if you don't know the other, you'll have a bigger appreciation for them if you go in and watch, if you see the originals and you understand the context and stuff like that. But this will be a movie you can just walk into totally cold, totally clean slate, watch it and appreciate it for what it is. You do not have to see it. Like I said, you're going to have a little bit more depth, a little bit more color to your experience of watching it if you do watch the original ones first, but it is not a requirement.
Is the B versus S trailer premiering in front of that?
That's the word. It's not confirmed because I haven't heard Warner Brothers say that it is, but all the reports are saying that it is, so I believe it will. It makes sense. It's a big Warner Brothers project. It'll get everybody talking about Batman versus Superman, and the fact that it's playing in front of Mad Max will get everybody even talking more about Mad Max Fury Road. So it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I hope they're doing it.
Yeah. John De La Torre writes, "Hey guys, love your show. My question is about the so-called Mount Rushmore of the greats. Who would you put on this Mount Rushmore of actors? Thanks and congrats on phase 3.
It's a tough question. The Mount Rushmore question, usually the question comes up regarding directors. And like my answer for the directors, my answer for this one will probably shift and change a little bit depending on the day that you ask me. There are one or two that are no-brainers, but then there are a couple that are going to shift and sway a little bit. So if I had to say, and I think this comes out of a discussion we had on AMC Movie Talk the other day where somebody asked, is Christian Bale right now, today, one of the all-time great actors? I believe the answer to that is no. Is he one of the best actors working today? Probably in the top 5. Absolutely he is. Maybe even the top 3. But all time, it's way too early. The dude has maybe 1 Oscar nomination, maybe 2. I can't remember. 2. No, he's got at least 2 Oscar nominations. I believe it's too early to call him one of the all-time greats. I get the same frustration with when I talk to other sports fans of mine, and you want to talk about the greatest running backs of all time. And inevitably because they're under 25, they'll just say one of the running backs who's playing today. And say, oh, he's one of the greatest of all time. Dude, you never saw Walter Payton run. Don't talk to me about this guy's better than Walter Payton. You're crazy. Anyway. But I find a lot of times when I talk to people, not all the time, there are some people who know a lot more about film than I do who will put Christian Bale on that list. I do not. I just find a lot of people that don't are usually ones who are younger, who are a lot younger. To me, so I don't believe Christian Bale belongs in the Mount Rushmore of actors, nor do I believe he yet belongs in the conversation. Give Christian Bale, who's still real young, give him 10 more years, 15 more years. He very well could be on that Mount Rushmore because he's got the talent to do it. Let's see how that develops. If I had to put together a Mount Rushmore right now of 5 guys, and my answer tomorrow might be different than the answer I give today. Number 1, I think it starts with Daniel Day-Lewis. I think Daniel Day-Lewis is maybe the greatest actor of all time. Whenever he's in a movie, it's just assumed he will either win the Academy Award. It's just an assumption now. If Daniel Day-Lewis is in a movie, because he does so few, the starting assumption is he will win the Academy Award. If not, at the very least, he will be nominated. He's not done that many films. He's got 5 nominations for Best Actor, 3 Best Actor Academy Award wins. So Lincoln, which is one of the greatest male performances we've seen in forever. There Will Be Blood, which I think his performance in There Will Be Blood might be the single greatest male performance we've ever had in a film. It sounds like hyperbole, but I really do believe it. I don't love the movie as a whole as much as I love his performance in it, but his performance as, I think Plainview is the name of the character in it, might be the single greatest performance that a male actor's ever given in any film ever. Then, of course, he won one for My Left Foot. Another more recent actor that I would probably put up there is Tom Hanks. 5 or 6 Academy Award nominations for Best Lead Actor, which is difficult enough on its own. He is one of the very few human beings to ever walk the face of the earth who won the Best Lead Actor Academy Award 2 years in a row. Everybody's guffawing at Bradley Cooper because he was nominated 3 years in a row. Tom Hanks won Best Actor of the Academy Awards 2 years in a row. That's rare. That's real rare. And again, it's just become assumed that if Tom Hanks is in a movie, if he doesn't get nominated for Best Actor, it's a shock to people. People get shocked. So I would, as of right now, I would put Tom Hanks up on that list. Another person I would put on that list, that I would put up on the Mount Rushmore, is an actor that a lot of the younger generation has never even seen. And he's even before my age, but I've watched a lot of his films. Marlon Brando. Oh. Marlon Brando, 8-time Academy Award nominee, 2-time Academy Award winner, Best Lead Actor, obviously for The Godfather, and then also for Waterfront, or On the Waterfront. Just an all-time iconic great. 4th person I'd put on that list will be Al Pacino. Al Pacino, look, he's mailed it in a lot. In the last 10 years, there have been a lot of his performances he's mailed it in, but every once in a while, even in the last 10 years, he's picked a movie that he's decided, I care about this one, I'm going to try. And when he does, it's like, oh yeah, this is Al Pacino. I just think he's one of the greatest of all time. It's just, we could run off a laundry list of his great performances. Even in the past 10 years, amongst all the ones he didn't care about, there's been a few that he has and that he just shines. So I would say Al Pacino. The 5th person I would put on that list is Spencer Tracy. Spencer Tracy is undoubtedly one of the all-time greats, a 10-time acting Academy Award nominee. I believe 2 trophies for Best Lead Actor sit on his mantle as we speak. So for me, if I had to put together Mount Rushmore of all-time greatest lead actors, I would say Daniel Day-Lewis, who is the king of them all, I believe. I would currently say Tom Hanks. Al Pacino, Marlon Brando, Spencer Tracy. That would be my personal Mount Rushmore. And hey, one or two of those could be bumped. Like I said, give Leonardo DiCaprio 10 more years. Give Christian Bale 10 more years. And we'll see where the conversation is then. For right now, though, those are the greats.
What about some Mount Rushmorettes, like some females? What about your female
I would
Mount
need
Rushmore?
time. Well, obviously,
Meryl Streep.
I mean, you got any actress with the last name Hepburn. You're talking about Meryl Streep, obviously. I think Jessica Lange might have to be in that conversation.
Wow. Yes.
I'm looking at her face. Sorry, fact checker Jonathan was in The Godfather. She was in the all-time great Woody Allen comedy. It looks like you got it already. And she was just in Diane Keaton. Thank you. I don't know why I drew a blank on Diane Keaton from The Godfather, for heaven's sakes. Diane Keaton, she's shown she can do comedy, she can do drama. She's done it over decades. So but it's one of the things I would have to sit down and think about it. But those are the names that pop off the top of my head right away.
All right. Manu Shoker writes, how's it going, AMC? Can trailers sometimes affect the way movies are reviewed? For instance, would your perception of a movie had changed if you didn't see a trailer for it? I know when people watch trailers, their expectations for that film can be high or low. And if those expectations are exceeded or just aren't met, reviews can alter. I'm sure how much a trailer spoils can also play into that fact. Your thoughts?
I'll say this. I think there's a danger of it. But if you're talking about reviews, so I'm going to assume you're talking about actual film critics. Any film critic worth their salt understands the difference between expectations and then the film itself. A little bit earlier, we were talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? And I thought that movie for 6 months, maybe a year, I thought that movie was going to be awful. It looked awful. I still believe it looked awful, all that kind of stuff. But what you got to do, not just as a film critic, I think as a film fan, you have to then if you're going in to see that movie, you got to take those expectations, no matter how good or how bad, and you've got to leave them at the door. Leave them there. Do not bring the expectations into the theater with you. Some people say you can't do that. Yeah, you can. You really, really can. Because within the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles situation, that was a movie that I thought looked terrible. I had awful expectations for that. But I went in, left my expectations at the door, and enjoyed the movie on its own merits. And I walked out going, you know what? That was pretty good. I liked it. I had a good time with it. Transformers 4 was a movie I had very high expectations for. I drank the Kool-Aid. I bought in all the trailers I thought looked awesome, but a bunch of us from AMC Movie News, we all went to go see it together at the AMC Prime at the AMC Burbank 16 here in Burbank, California. Took those expectations I had, although they were really positive ones, left them at the door, went in and watched one of the worst movies I've seen in years. It was terrible, judging it on its own merits. Now, a lot of times the expectations, most of the time, if you expect a bad movie, you go in and you watch it, turns out to be bad. Hey, it turns out it looked bad for a reason. Or if a movie looks good, hey, it turns out it looked good for a reason. That's most of the time, but sometimes whatever. So any critic, I think, which has a higher responsibility than the average film fan, I think any critic worth their salt has expectations. We all do. But then you got to leave those expectations at the door of the theater. Go in, judge the movie on its own merits, and then give your review.
Something I hate is when you go to see a comedy and you're like, this is going to be so funny.
Oh, yeah.
And then all the funny parts are shown in the trailer. How can you leave that at the door?
Well, I mean, you leave the expectations of funny or not at the door before you go in and watch it. And then afterwards you reflect upon it and say, everything that was funny about that movie was in the trailer. And that's unfortunate. That might harsh your judgment later, but hopefully you just left those expectations, experience the movie, and then reflect on it later and say, yep, all the good stuff was in it in the trailer. Or man, they left all the good parts out of the trailer, one or two of the other. But that's reflection after the movie. That's not, hopefully it doesn't affect your experience watching the movie. And man, it's just like a action flick. Like all the exciting scenes were in the trailer. Or a man like Idris Elba for The Gunman, right? Idris Elba's in half the trailer of The Gunman. He's in like The Gunman for 2 minutes. I mean, this happens all the time. And Happens all the time.
All right, next question comes from X-Raid, and they write, "Greetings, AMC crew. I know you guys get thousands of emails, and chances of a question being selected on AMC Movie Talk or Mailbag are pretty slim. My question is, do the questions that don't get selected still get read, or is there simply too many emails to go through each one? Would love a little more insight. Thanks."
We get literally between Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and email, 3,000 or 4,000 messages fired at us every week. And all of them get read. All of them get read. Now that being said, with mailbag issues, I will say this, they all get scanned at one point or another. You know, whether it's myself, somebody else, they will be at least scanned, like look at the subject line. For the most part, all emails that get sent in get looked at. They all do. But sometimes there will be a chunk of emails that do not get even read under the following circumstances. We are, let's say Jackson or somebody's putting together the list for mailbag, right? And he's got like 2 more mailbag questions he's got to come up with. He already came up with 6. And in that 6, there are already, say, 3 comic book questions. We don't want any more than 3 in an 8 question thing. So he knows, okay, no more comic book questions. So then he's reading through the emails and he sees subject line, Age of Ultron theory. He'll skip it. He read the subject, but understand, look, I can't use this anyway. I got to find the questions that we're going to use. The next one is Spider-Man in MCU. Skips it. The next one, Spider-Man in MCU. Skips it. The next one, Spider-Man in MCU. No, I'm not kidding. It's Spider-Man in MCU. Spider-Man in MCU. Spider-Man. Anyway, or we talked a few weeks ago about what are some ways to make sure your question doesn't get on. We talked about don't pick real super obscure little thing like Rishi, the Japanese dog, or whatever. And like some people, and so if Jackson reads, oh look, do you think whatever super obscure Polish comic book, do you think this will make a good movie? How are we supposed to know? No one's read it. So in situations like that, now when it's ever an email at the beginning of the selection process, yeah, they all get read until like certain quotas are filled, and then we just got to start skimming over them. Any email that gets sent in that is actually a message for us and not necessarily a mailbag question, but gets sent into amcmovietalk@gmail.com. It's a message for us. Those all get read. It's tough. It's hard. It's time consuming. But yeah, if you Facebook message us, tweet us, leave a comment on our YouTube videos, they get read. They do because we care. We care. Nice. We care what our audience thinks and what they have to say. Even when it's good, even when it's bad, we like to hear it. And so yes, they get read. But sometimes in the circumstance of we've filled our quota for that day or that couple of days of mailbag questions, of Spider-Man questions or superhero questions, at that point, then they start to get skimmed by their subject line. Other than that, yes, they all get read.
Oh, that's awesome. Edward Justin writes, "Hi guys, loving Phase 3. My question comes after yesterday's marketing of the Deadpool movie being rated R. Could Fox be DC's main threat at Comic-Con due to the 3 big movies coming out next year?"
I don't think anybody is a threat to anybody at Comic-Con. If anything else, if Deadpool goes and makes a big splash at Comic-Con, that honestly, it kind of just helps Warner Brothers and DC. I often said, like the year that Zack Snyder at Comic-Con, I believe it was 2 Comic-Cons ago, Zack Snyder came out on stage and announced Batman versus Superman. And he had the one actor come out, I'm forgetting his name. He's on the blacklist now, and he plays the general in Man of Steel. I can't remember the actor's name, but he came out and read that passage from Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, right? I want you to remember the one man who beat you, reading that line. I, said, and I still believe, with that one moment, Warner Brothers and DC won Comic-Con. They won Comic-Con. They did. That was the biggest buzz and the biggest moment of splash out of all of Comic-Con. But that didn't take away any of the buzz generated by Marvel and all of its properties that they did. Because Marvel and Fox and whatever, they did a lot of really cool things. They got a lot of people buzzing. And just because the biggest buzz of them all was Batman versus Superman getting announced, that doesn't take away what they did at all. If anything, it just got everybody talking about Comic-Con and all the announcements that got made even more, which is one of those situations where, to me, it's the rising tide raises all ships, right? So more attention comes to Comic-Con. Warner Brothers is not worried about it. Because if more people get talking about announcements at Comic-Con, that means more people are talking about their announcements and everything too. Rising tide raises all ships. So I do not believe it is a threat to Warner Brothers. Now, that being said, if we're changing our terminology and asking who's going to win Comic-Con this year, I will still put my money on Warner Brothers and DC. I think Deadpool can go make a big splash, but everybody, and I mean everybody, is talking Batman versus Superman. They go to Comic-Con this year. Look, listen up, DC, Warner Brothers. Kevin Tsujihara, head of Warner Brothers. I know you watch this show. Listen to me very carefully here. He doesn't watch this show, but let's say he watches this show. Kevin, listen to me. Marvel's not going to have a big presence at Comic-Con this year. You have an opportunity here to make such a huge splash. You must make a splash with Batman versus Superman. You got to do something big. And don't just do the little pissy cop-out thing you did the other year where you just had Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill walk out on stage for a minute ago and walk off. Don't pull that nonsense again. You have an opportunity to make a huge splash, to grab the spotlight by the throat. Take advantage of it, son. Make it happen. Anyway, that's
son. Snap right there. Why is everyone always comparing the two? Can't we all just get along?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like me, I'm a comic book fan. I'm a comic book movie fan. I don't care if Fox puts it out. I don't care if DC puts it out. I don't care if Marvel puts it out or Sony. I just love good comic book movies. I think you're kind of an idiot if you will determine in advance if you're going to like or not like a comic book movie based on which studio does it. You're robbing yourself of a lot of great movies, and I just think it's an idiotic way to approach life. I put it this way. I cannot help but laugh at people who subject themselves to corporate masters. And that's all these people who go, I'm only a DC guy. I'm only a Marvel guy. So basically, you've enslaved yourself to your corporate master. Yes, Marvel. Whatever you say, Marvel. Master. Yes, DC. Yes, Kevin Tsujihara. Whatever. Anything you do is awesome, my master. You know, that's a stupid way to approach things. I really do. I think it's a really stupid way to approach things. Hey, if a comic book movie is good, it's good. If a comic book movie is bad, it's bad. Don't matter what opening title card comes up, whether it says Marvel or Warner Brothers DC, it don't matter. Good's good, it's bad, bad. Just I learn to appreciate them all.
Exactly. Let's all just get along, guys.
Let's just all get along.
Sing some kumbaya. Thanks you guys so much for joining us. That's all the time we have for today. And just a reminder, if you want to enjoy a lovely movie on your Sunday afternoon, go ahead and head on over to www.amctheaters.com for all of your theaters, showtimes, and ticket information. And if you want a podcast version of this episode, check out the description box below and make sure to click that subscribe button. Thanks to the guys in the room, Dennis and Jonathan, and thanks to John. John, where can people find you online?
You guys can follow me on the various social media networks on Twitter or on Facebook just by following me at John Campia.
And you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ashley Mova. And I hope you guys are having a great day, and we will catch you next time. Bye.